have you ever heard of something called juice jacking? If not, listen up. Next time you plug in your phone for a quick recharge at the airport, you might be giving a bad guy access to all of your phone's sensitive data. And you would think that major banks have major security for your data too, but there's been a breach at some of the big ones. Brand and digital strategist Fisher, who could be found on X and Threads with the username @Fisher and through his website, fisher.media, joins us with tips on what to buy. Joins us with tips on where to
I see that
charge,
too.
when not to charge, et cetera. What to buy too. You might need one of those
Yeah,
anchor chargers. Good morning,
yeah,
Fisher. Good to have
absolutely.
you on.
Good morning. I'm not going
So,
to rub it in, but it's 43 degrees here. So just
oh
wanted
yeah, he's
to
down in Hotlanta. There you go.
gotcha.
All right. But it gets cold there. It gets cold.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
tell me, what is juice jacking? So
Yeah.
explain it, because you told me off air. So tell us what juice jacking is.
Yeah, so cybersecurity experts are urging travelers to beware of juice jacking. Now, juice jacking, as you asked, is the threat involving public USB charging. And I have props, right? So normally you would plug your phone into an outlet that would look like this, right? I'm trying to make sure I get it on the screen. There you go, right? But at airports, typically around seating, they have the ability for you to plug your USB port in like this, right? So it's just this and you plug it in. Well, that charging port can transfer data both ways, allowing hackers to install malware and steal personal information or access accounts. So you're not just charging your phone, you're making it vulnerable. Now, obviously a tip would be to use charging devices using AC power plugs instead of USB ports to eliminate data transfer vulnerabilities. You could also use, got more props, portable chargers. Invest in a cheap portable battery pack. They're usually $8 to $15. This one came with my luggage, but you can just buy one at Target, Best Buy, wherever, to avoid public stations altogether during travel. Now, you could also experience this besides the airport. Keep in mind, if you're getting your car service, they usually have USB chargers, things that if you're in an Uber, sometimes the Uber driver will say, oh, you can plug in to the USB in the back and charge your phone. Don't do that either. The other huge deal at airports is unsecured airport Wi-Fi. It's considered a greater threat because hackers can pretend that they're airport Wi-Fi's, right? So you go to LaGuardia, you go to Newark, and you see Newark free Wi-Fi or LGA free Wi-Fi, etc. You hop on, and in reality, it's some guy with a computer a couple of gates down, right? So instead, use VPN or a hotspot. Now, you could buy a hotspot separately from your cellular provider, or usually your phone can also be a hotspot, and then use that as your source of internet if you don't have a VPN. If you have a VPN and you connect to a network that is unsecured, turn that VPN on before you begin any surfing, and you should be safe. But definitely don't just connect to an unsecure airport Wi-Fi, which also most airport Wi-Fis are unsecure anyway. So definitely use a VPN. So whether it's a hacker or not, I could get into the airport Wi-Fi and then get onto your machine, because again, if you're not using a VPN, it leaves your computer, your device, your phone, whatever, very vulnerable.
The question though, Fisher, is even if I'm using a VPN, if I use my USB and
Mhm.
plug directly into one of those jacks, does the VPN still protect me in that case?
No, because at that point you're giving a
Right.
direct. You might as well have just connected to the hacker's computer at that point. So
Right.
it's
You're
two
just your
different
your
things. The
phone becomes
VPNs,
your phone becomes a hard drive on his computer. Right. He just has access, or
exactly.
whatever she.
VPNs only protect internet access. So think of it that way.
Gotcha.
So anything
Gotcha.
that's using your bank, that's using your email, that's using just surfing the web, anything like that. That's the only thing that VPNs protect.
Because I've always said, if these dirtbags spent half as much energy doing something legitimate, they'd be billionaires that way. But this
Yep.
somehow seems fun to them, I guess. Now, so is there ever a time you think it's safe to use a charger? Or just do what you're saying? Just take the plug head, and if you're using the plug head, now there's
I
no
got
way they could get
USB.
access.
I got
Yep.
my battery charger. That's
Yeah.
the only time it is okay. Right here.
Or
That's
like
it.
you said, if you have an AC plug,
Yes, which is here.
right? The AC plug,
Yeah,
they're
and
not
you
going to
could
get
buy
data.
those at Target. You can get them at, whatever your cell company is right here, and then you just plug it in. But, and you charge it this way at home, but don't plug this directly into an outlet.
Gotcha. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. We think of skimmers. That's sort of like the USB version of a skimmer, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. So there you go. All right. Juice jacking. There we have it. Um, Now, I thought if any organizations were to be somewhat safe, it would be banks. You would think they would have 1,000 levels of crypto, whatever. But
Yeah.
there are two major banks that look like they've been hacked with a data breach.
Technically, third-party service provider for those banks. JP Morgan Chase and Citi were directly impacted by Stitus AMC, which again is a third party layered on top that has different pieces of information. So accounting documents, legal documents, and details related to some clients was what was captured. Stitus AMC quickly contained the breach, contacted the FBI. The FBI is looking into it. Quickly, here's some things to protect yourself. Number one, freeze your credit. It is absolutely free. Don't lock your credit. That's a charge by the credit bureaus. So if you go to lock your credit, you'll see that they'll charge for it. Google freeze credit, Experian freeze credit, TransUnion freeze credit, Equifax, and it's free. You just have to enter some information, some personal information, including your social security number, but make sure you're also going to those websites to do it. Change your banking passwords. Even if it's not JP Morgan Chase or Citi, add two-factor authentication. We've gone through this. You could also add alerts on your accounts to notify you of withdrawals, charges where a physical card wasn't used, anything out of the country that was charged, anything over $100. You could take your debit card and put a limit of $500 a day. And also Clark Howard, who's a consumer advocate and a friend of mine, suggested creating a checking account separate from your actual checking account with all your money. Keep a certain amount of money in there and then have your debit card attached to that.
My brand and digital strategist Fisher, who can be found on X and Threads with username @Fisher, through his website Fisher.media as well. Thank you so much for coming on this morning, sir, and happy
Have a
holidays.
good day. You too.
You too.